Okay, and so how I was talking to David. We were kind of chatting here, and I was like, we're gonna have to say all this again on the
Yeah, no
podcast.
worries.
But how did you guys get involved in Decriminalize Humboldt? Did you kind of
Well,
find it, start it?
yeah, I mean, I started it with a couple others.
Okay.
I was checking out Decriminalized Nature for a year. I was in school, and I actually did like a project involving Larry Norris, who's like one of the founders of Decriminalized Nature. So I was watching them for a year. I was in the master's program at HSU. I did not have enough time to start a chapter here. And I told Larry, I'm like, hey, if anyone contacts you, I want to be on the team. And two shop owners in Arcata contacted Larry. And it was perfect timing because I was right at the end of my semester. And we were meeting together, and they were both super busy, and I had just graduated, so I had a lot of time. So I just got it going. Like, I've been doing the Instagram, and yeah, the first tabling I did, I met David, which I was so grateful for because at that point I was like, man, I can't do this like without support. I need support. Or like, and my intention was like, after this tabling, if I don't find anyone, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
But thankfully, David
Luckily,
showed
he
up.
came
Yeah, I
along,
just
right?
walked in and I was like, I love mushrooms too.
Yeah, hooked. So what got you into this? Like, why did that kind of speak to you of, okay, like this is something I need to get involved in?
Well, I've had personally entheogens, particularly ayahuasca, saved my life. Like, I was very depressed since birth. I had wished to God I had never been born. So I was very depressed from childhood into adulthood. And in my mid 20s, not making good life choices. I was down the road of addiction. I didn't know how to break it. I didn't want to be there, but I didn't know how. And I traveled in India for 2 months, trying to like find an answer. I did meditation. I read spiritual books, but there was always like a roadblock, and I just could not get out of the depression. And there was a point I couldn't handle it anymore, and I was like, I have to change something because I can't live like this anymore. And I Googled like spiritual intervention, and ayahuasca came up. I had no idea what it was. It was like, ayahuasca, Brazil, cool, I'm going. And I magically got my passport in time, or my visa in time, and 3 weeks later I went to Brazil. And after the first ceremony with ayahuasca, I wasn't depressed anymore. I like saw myself, and I loved myself the first time ever. And that's what was missing, was love. And I didn't have any need for addiction, and no more bad people were coming into my life. And it was so magical. And it's like, I want this for others. And I continued on the road of working with these medicines, and it just gets better and better and better. Like, the more layers you really peel off. And after learning how to take these medicines in a ceremonial way, a way for healing, I was able to get a better relationship with mushrooms, which has helped so much. And working with San Pedro and doing this all like in a very, with respect and with intention. And I've been able to just who I was even 5 years ago to who I am now and what I'm doing now, I would have never imagined. So yeah, I want this to be available for everyone.
That is amazing. You hear a lot of people, I mean, I have no experience with ayahuasca, with anything, but you hear that recurring theme of people, struggling in their lives or struggling with different mental health aspects. And, they hit this end of the road, and yet they find psilocybin mushrooms, or they find ayahuasca, or even LSD or MDMA, and it changes their whole life. They go from being suicidal and not wanting to be here and not wanting to endure anymore to, okay, I can do this. Like, I have this new outlook on life.
Yeah, there's so much medicinal
It's
benefits,
insane.
and it's ridiculous that we're not able to use them. That's what's really ridiculous, and it's causing people to be scared, or the accessibility to these medicines are harder to get to, and that's all we're trying to do is make it more available. Make it more normalized. Get over this whole war on drugs, and start moving forward in this whole medicinal revolution.
Yeah, we were talking about it a little bit before we got on, that it's crazy that these natural remedies are fought so hard, and yet the alternative of, oh, just pop this anti-anxiety or pop this this other medication and you're going to be fine. And that's what we look to. I go, oh, I got to get the pill for it and then I'll be good, instead of turning towards these plants.
Fix me now, not for later, is pretty much what's going on.
It's not even fix me. It's, okay, let's put the Band-Aid on.
Exactly.
And when that falls off, we'll just put another Band-Aid on it. We're not going to go beneath the surface on this.
No, yeah. And as we spoke about this earlier, it's like, it's not just, psychoactive plants and fungi. There's so many out there that are just not being recognized. Just like, lion's mane, like we talked about, great health benefits. That's just another mushroom that, should be more widely available. It's not psychoactive, so you can buy this powdered or, extracted at this, your local stores. But, we need to be able to know more about these ancient Chinese medicines and plants and fungi and use them more.
Yeah, it's that knowledge aspect, right? That's just not touted.
Yeah, exactly.
So you went to Brazil for this.
Yes.
Were you worried, like, going
No.
on this? It was...
No, not at all. I mean, when you're at that point, if you don't care if you die or not, you're at a place of fearlessness.
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, you're almost like, well, I've got nothing to lose. Might
Yeah.
as well try it. What was the experience like? Was it... I know some of them are like 3 days, you can't eat before, you can't eat after, you purge yourself. How did this one go down?
Yeah, so I was supposed to prepare, so pretty much going on a plant-based diet, and I did that. I was good with that for 3 weeks, and when I got there, it was 3 weeks I was there. And altogether there were 6 ceremonies. If I remember, this was, how many years ago was this? This was 8 years ago. Yeah. And the first ceremony, I had no idea what to expect. I still had not, the 3 weeks I had, I didn't really look into what ayahuasca was. And so I sat there, I didn't know what to expect. My intention was, like, show me what I need to see in order to heal. And I went into it with complete trust, just complete trust. And I realized what ayahuasca was. I was, like, in a different, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, I couldn't really, like, I was just, like, in the cosmos. Like, not on Earth anymore. I mean, yes, I was still anchored to Earth, but I was in a different place entirely. And I needed to be that outside of myself in order to see myself. And then I just cried, like, for hours and hours, because I saw how beautiful my heart was. And I'd never seen that before. And then I realized why anyone would like me and why anyone would even love me. Because before I was confused why people would want to even be around me. And it was purely magical. And then my second ceremony, I used to dislike children and even puppies and kittens, like babies in general.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I would never hurt them or anything.
Yeah, I would hope not.
No, I mean, I still had love for them, but I just couldn't stand to be around them. Their existence annoyed me. But my second ceremony, I turned into a baby. And it was the most interesting thing because I knew I was Danielle. I knew I was an adult human, but I was a baby. I was seeing everything through the eyes of a baby, how magnificent everything was. I was laying there and I couldn't get up because I was a baby. And yeah, there was some fear in that because I was like, am I just going to be sent home not being able to, like, function?
Just a small child again?
Yeah, like, stuck in an adult body. So, and it was interesting because, like, after that ceremony, I had to relearn everything. Like, I had to relearn how to chew and swallow. And it happened very quickly. Like, I had to relearn how to walk. I had to relearn how to, like, drink water. I had to relearn how to, like, go pee. So that was really interesting. But that ceremony, I love children. I love, baby animals. And I realized that I had missed out on my childhood. So every time I saw children, I was annoyed by them because I didn't get to experience that. So yeah, that was a beautiful gift, like, to be able to heal my childhood and heal my relation, like, with children, with baby animals and such.
That inner child is so important.
Yes.
I mean, the experiences you undergo as a child are so important.
Yes.
I mean, it really sets you up and paves the foundation for everything throughout the rest of your life for those formative years. And I know everybody says that, and it sounds cliche saying it now, but I mean, it is so important. It is so important.
Yeah, we meet a lot of interesting people boothing at the Arcata's Farmers Market, and one quote that I really liked from someone was he was pretty much saying that life is just healing from our childhood traumas. And I was like, I like that.
Yeah.
That sounds nice. You know, we don't really think about that kind of stuff as an adult sometimes. And that's what's really awesome about these psychoactive compounds is they allow us to think outside the box. You know, we get to think about things that we would never think about. You know, our brain gets rewired in a way that it never would have unless you take this substance. And, you know, that's just amazing.
And so for you, it almost showed you yourself, almost like a reflection, and kind of peeled back the layers for you to look at.
Absolutely. Yeah, I saw myself so clearly. The good parts, the beautiful parts, and then the parts that weren't so good. And it helped me see the cycles that I was in and the parts I was playing as a victim and how I was actually seeing myself as a victim in some situations where I was actually being the victimizer and nothing too crazy, just like talking negatively about someone, for example, and like finding myself as the victim. But then it's like, well, when I speak these like, unkind words about this person, like I'm not being kind to this person. So it helped me see myself so clearly in the cycles I was in and the family cycles I was in. And it showed me a way out. And it wasn't magical, like at the snap of a fingers, oh, I'm out of it. It just showed me the way. And when I came back to the USA, I was very blissed out. But then it was a lot of work. It took years, and it still is. Like, I am still working on the things that I'm being shown. So it's not a magical, like, oh, I'm taking this medicine and everything's healed. These medicines show you the way, and it's your choice to integrate that into your life or to just kind of let it pass you by.
And so you did 6 sessions. Are these
Mhm.
like 6 consecutive nights, or kind of spaced out
It was
over those
spaced
few
out like
weeks?
a couple days.
Okay.
Hmm.
And are you confronting like a different side of yourself in each session, or are you kind of? I mean, you said you were like a
That
baby, and then
time
you.
over there, it was really all about love
Okay.
for me. And I did realize different aspects, but every single ceremony was all about love because that's what I really needed. And these plant medicines, like, they show you what you need in that moment. And ayahuasca was so gentle with me. Like, I was so fragile, I was so near the edge. And she was so gentle, like, so loving. I just felt so just held and cared for and safe. And I know of some people, it's not like that for everyone. The medicine really meets you where you are and what you need to see. Some people I sat in ceremony with, they saw scary things like devils and skeletons and just things that really scared them. And some people purged a lot of purging. I never purged at all, which is pretty rare.
Purging being throwing up.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. Some people in ceremony the whole night they're throwing up. Um,
That's a rough way to go.
It's a
yeah,
gnarly plant
Oh my
medicine.
god.
Well, just with your stomach, like imagine trying to break down all that cellulose and
It's a lot for your system.
yeah.
And so have you done ayahuasca?
I have not tried ayahuasca
Okay.
yet. I've done San Pedro, which is the active compound in that is mescaline, and same thing. It has a pretty gnarly purging process as well. Just hard on the stomach.
That is intense. That's an intense experience to go through.
I mean, nowadays people like you can make the extracts now, and figure out what compound is in the plant or fungi, and find the right solvent and extract it, and then you don't have to put down as much. But yeah, still, it is pretty.
Mm-hmm.
I think the purging is important.
Yeah,
It almost seems like it's part of it.
yeah.
It's part of it. And also, some of us do carry, like, I myself had a lot of entities attached to me, which is for some of us the cause of depression, anxiety. Um, yeah, and by purging, it helps release those energies. And that's what the importance of ceremony and the importance of shamans, because they see beyond this realm, and so they're there to help the entities go away and not attach on someone else in ceremony, because that is something with a shaman that doesn't know what they're doing, which there are a lot of shamans out there who claim they're shamans and they don't know what they're doing. They haven't put in the work. Maybe they've drank ayahuasca for 5 years and they think they're ready to serve. They're not. It's like years and years and years of working with the medicine and working with a shaman. It's usually in South America, to be able to really get into those realms. And yeah, it takes a lot of it's a lot of responsibility to be a shaman, and these people are trusting you, and you've got to hold space with purity and be there when people need your help. And yeah.
That's one of the really critical parts, right? Is having that shaman. I mean, is that unique to ayahuasca? Because you don't really hear that with, mushrooms or obviously MDMA, but it seems to be a recurring theme with ayahuasca is you need that guided person who can kind of
Absolutely.
take you where you need to go and make sure everything's gonna
Ayahuasca
work
is
out.
not one to mess around with. Like, it's not something you would drink and go to a party.
Mhm.
It's very sacred, needs to be very respected. And yeah.
That's
And I just hope that those who aren't ready to be serving medicine choose not to serve the medicine, because it could harm people.
and that's one thing that we're trying to, make more aware of is educate the public on exactly what she was just saying. Is just having the set and setting, having somebody there to maybe help you throughout your psychedelic experience or psychoactive experience and treat it like a medicine and, not to take advantage of it.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think you could abuse. I mean, you could abuse it like any other substance, right? But I think its healing properties really come from that, from that guidance. And I know we were talking about my kind of introduction into all of this was the experiments they're doing with MDMA on soldiers with PTSD and how they're having these profound breakthroughs and they're not having these depressive episodes and they're not suicidal and their whole outlook on life is changing. And I mean, we're really bringing these soldiers back from the brink with moderate to low doses of MDMA. And nobody's really talking about that, which I thought was pretty crazy because they've got them all jacked up on antidepressants,
Yep.
antipsychotics that don't really work. They just kind of, again, with that Band-Aid thing.
I know active military members that are taking microdose capsules of psilocybin mushrooms, and they say it's changing their life. And they're like, I can't believe we don't have more access to this, and we're not allowed to take this. But like, unfortunately, they're not really testing for it. And if it is, it comes up for like food poisoning, I believe. So I mean, like, yeah, I mean, once this is the first step. So Arcata is the first step to. Once we get this decriminalized here, it'll show that other cities could do the same. Once that happens, then we can start doing more research on these substances and how they will help people with PTSD or depression or anxiety. And I think it'll just it'll help just give it more of a clinical setting versus this underground world that we have to go through and just to get, some relief.
It's weird when you think about it that psilocybin, ayahuasca, DMT, those are all on the same playing field as, I mean, heroin and even just alcohol.
Yeah.
Like we have this view on alcohol that, oh, this is fine. Like we're sitting here drinking beers and
Cheers,
nobody's going to
cheers.
say anything about it. But if we were sitting here doing mushrooms, people would vocalize their opinions.
Yeah.
Which is insane. I mean, once one literally messes with your body every time you touch it and the other does not in a tangible way. But there's that weird stigma around it. Do you think that
That's
just comes
crazy.
from a lack of knowledge that people aren't?
I think it's definitely
There's
lack
just
of
branding on
knowledge
it?
and also the war on drugs. Like Nixon, I don't even know how much he paid, but a lot of money into commercials, anti-drug commercials. And I mean, LSD was the main one that was hit, but all the other like psychoactive substances such as psilocybin mushrooms and peyote were also umbrellaed under there, and it stuck. People were scared. And the stories, and sure, crazy things did happen on psychedelics back in the 60s. Yes, this was a new thing. People, they were pioneers. They didn't know what to expect. And it can put you in a place where you think you're going crazy. So people did end up in psych wards.
Yeah.
And, crazy stuff did happen. But as people got used to what these were, and also just the social knowledge of like, hey, this is what you might expect, people were no longer admitting themselves to psych wards and ending up in hospitals. And so that they thought in the 70s that the war on drugs had worked because less people were ending up in the hospitals, in the psych wards, but more people than ever were taking acid, taking mushrooms. It's just that they had learned what those effects would be. But yeah,
So they knew what to expect. It wasn't
Exactly.
this mind-blowing thing anymore.
Exactly, where you literally think you're going insane.
Yeah.
But I forgot what I was gonna say.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you there. I was writing that train of thought. I would think I mean, the war on drugs is not. They obviously lost, right? I mean, people are using more drugs now than ever.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily believe that's a bad thing. I think people should be allowed to make their own decisions, first off.
I think that is totally true. I think what the bad thing is the stigma. Like what Oregon did, I think is amazing. Like decriminalizing
All drugs, right?
Because I think that, yes, and I think that's going to help people get the help they need because many people who are on harmful substances such as heroin and methamphetamine, they don't want to be there. And a lot of it stems from childhood trauma. And by decriminalizing, it's going to allow them to ask for help because that criminal label will be taken off of them. Because if you're a criminal, you can't ask for help because you don't deserve help because you're a criminal. But once that label's taken off of you, yes, you're worthy of help. Yes, you deserve help. And I foresee the issue with drug abuse like really going down after decriminalization.
Is that why that's the first kind of push, is to just decriminalize it, take off that label of this is
Yep.
an illegal substance.
If someone needs help, like she said, they should be able to get help. And that's one case that Danielle has brought up is, if someone's on mushrooms in the plaza and they go up to an officer and say, hey, look, this is the situation, we would hope that they would get help or take a ride home or, I don't know, something like that versus like, hey, turn around and put your arms behind your back.
Yeah.
So that's like the main goal, is to be able to just have help if it's there, if it's needed.
Now I know with marijuana, and I'm not sure exactly how this has played out, but I know that people have, taken edibles and had mental breaks.
Yeah.
And they're not sure if it's because they were predisposed towards something like schizophrenia and this just kind of pushed them over the edge, or this sparked that inside of them. Is that happening with psilocybin and with these psychedelics as well?
That definitely could happen.
Mhm.
I mean, that's why there is a warning and why there needs to be education. This isn't for everyone. Like, if you do have severe mental illness in your family, it probably would be wise not to macrodose. I believe microdosing would still be fine. But yeah, it really isn't for everyone. And I have known 2 people who it was with LSD where they never quite came back, but they were already going to go there at some point in their life, but it just did push them over the edge, sadly.
Go there, like hit that kind of wall.
Yeah, well, they kind of lost their minds. I mean, not in a crazy like, oh, they're dangerous and crazy now, but just like they couldn't function in this reality anymore. But they were this happened when I was in high school, and they were very socially awkward, very smart, but just you could tell there was something off with them. So there was already some mental stuff going on, but the substance did
nudge them.
And
Yeah.
I believe that definitely would have happened in their 20s when mental illness does affect a lot of people that are already kind of going there. But yeah, if there is, it's not for everyone. And again,
especially when you're a kid. I mean, you just don't. There's so many other variables you don't know.
And
Yeah.
that's going to be very interesting, with this whole legalization thing and like decriminalize. I mean, but eventually it'll be legalized and hopefully taken to a different schedule. Not what is it, Schedule 1 or 2?
I think it's a 1, right? Yeah.
So once it gets taken off of that, then who knows where it's going to go? But it's going to be sold in like what, an eighth baggie, and an eighth baggies, that could be very intense for some people. And that's why the education needs to be done, is because you can't just open up an eighth baggie and be like, yo, I bought this legally, and eat a whole eighth. Like, you might have a bad time, especially if you don't have the right setting or intentions. You can have a bad time. And that's one thing that we're going to try and do as well, is just try and have this educational push of, dosage, setting and intentions. Those are going to be very important topics that we're going to be hitting, and hopefully people will, find their dose. That's really like what it comes down to is where do you feel comfortable? What's going to make you feel comfortable, and how do you still get the benefits from these compounds without overdoing it or taking advantage of them.
What's a typical dosage of mushrooms? You're speaking to a guy who has no idea, so you got to fill me in here.
I would say if you want like a very light social dose, that would be 1 gram.
Okay.
If you want to go a little bit deeper, 2. If you want to have a mystical experience,
I like the way you put that. A mystical experience.
I'd say 3.5 and over grams. You probably don't want to go over 5 grams. And I'd say work up to that, And I think it's really cool, the microdosing that is getting really popularized. So what a microdose is 0.13 of a gram. So getting people comfortable with like, okay, that, and maybe upping it a little bit and, just like slowly upping it to, oh, this is what a gram feels like. I think it is really important to be cautious with it and just knowing how it feels in your body because it can be very scary. I had experiences as a teenager that were very scary. And yeah, I don't feel safe to have a mystical experience unless there's a shaman present. Like, I have not had a mystical experience with mushrooms. I would like to. But I would like to be in a ceremony where I feel safe and held and to be able to go on that deep of a journey.
Mystical being you're going to start seeing some stuff.
Mystical as in where you may leave this realm. Like you're anchored here on Earth, but you might not exactly know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And those mystical experiences are so important. Like most of my ayahuasca experiences have been mystical experiences where like you're like it's like you're still here, but it's like I've traveled to different planets, like just past lives. I've had relived past life experiences that I needed to heal, that were affecting my current reality. But yeah, you need to feel safe during that. If you're having a mystical experience and you're not feeling safe, that could be a very, very bad thing, where you go to a place of terror and fear, and that's not
what you want.
That's not healing. Yeah, that's not healing.
You don't want to have a bad trip.
Yeah. Yeah, and difficult trips do happen. And a lot of the times those difficult trips are from you seeing parts of yourself that you just don't want to see. And that's what some people don't realize with these entheogens, is that it's not just fun and games. They're here to show you things. And there are probably many things within yourself that you don't want to see. Like, we are excellent. Like, we're so good at avoiding those things, like with alcohol, with just like whatever addiction that we may have, or just the constant, like, social media, just always being on the phone. We're very good at avoiding ourselves. And these entheogens and other psychedelics help us see ourselves. And that is what we need right now in this current reality more than ever. Like, we are not doing very well as a race.
It's not good out there.
Yeah, humanity
it's a little rough.
Earth is dying. We keep taking and taking and taking. Animals are going extinct. Children are starving. If you take a look at the whole globe, it's not going very well. The droughts, the fires. There's not clean water for so many people. So many people are thirsty. So many people are hungry, and we can heal that. And I truly believe we can heal that through healing ourselves. And the answer is these entheogens.
I've heard that a lot, specifically with DMT, is that people have come face to face with this like embodied ego, and they can either like address that and kind of face that side of them and try to strip that away, or it can kind of, beat them down a little bit and it doesn't end so well. Yeah. I don't know if either of you have done DMT.
I mean, that's ayahuasca
It's kind of the same thing, right?
Has DMT in it.
Okay.
And so the ayahuasca vine helps the DMT helps the ayahuasca communicate with you, the vine. And so it's a plant mixture. And so pretty much you're on a 6-hour DMT journey.
So it's almost just more potent, because DMT by itself it doesn't last very long,
No,
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very potent. And in South America, they mix other substances like datura and other substances. I'm not remembering other plants, but it makes that psychedelic journey very intense.
The mixture kind of like makes the how do you say it? Symbiotic? No, not symbiotic, but like a synergistic effect where it kind of potentiates the
Okay.
DMT.
They work together.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And now, is there a different? This is gonna sound like such a lame question, but I gotta ask it. Is there a difference between these psychedelics? Like, are you experiencing different things when you're on LSD versus psilocybin versus DMT, or is it all just kind
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
of okay?
I'd say mushrooms. Like I really like mushrooms, and because of the way you can dose.
You have a little more control over
more
it.
control over the dose, and versus like acid, you don't know like who's the chemist who made the batch, how did they test the batch, how do you know how strong it really is? Whereas like with mushrooms, it's you weigh out a gram, you eat a gram. I mean, it differentiates between strain. Some mushroom strains are stronger than others, but theoretically overall, I feel like mushrooms are probably going to be the best psychoactive substance for somebody not trying to like enter this realm of healing, just solely because it's easier to dose and probably obtain too. But yeah.
Although I wrote my thesis at HSU on those who take mushrooms, long-term experiences and motivations, and most of the people I interviewed took them for recreational purposes, like going to a festival, having fun with friends and such. And there was a small percentage who did it only for spiritual reasons. The people who took them recreationally became better people, which was something I was not expecting to find, because I'm all about intention. Like, if your intention is just to party with friends, you're just going to party with friends. But the cool thing is the mushrooms are still doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
And every single one of those people, like, it comes out in the interview. But every single one of the people, it came out like they are communicating better with their partner. They're being kinder to their child. They're not littering anymore, which is a big one. Yeah, please stop littering.
That's a good one.
Yeah, right? That's not
Yeah.
a bad thing.
Yeah, like they're doing farming, like growing their own foods. And the main message from everyone was the connection with Earth. And so even people who are taking them recreationally are not only becoming better people in their personal lives and interactions with others, but are being caregivers for our Earth. And this is what we need right now, more than anything. We need to wake up to why we're even here. And that's Earth. And she just keeps giving and giving and giving. And one day she won't be able to anymore. And like with these entheogens, with these experiences, and realizing that she is a living being, and that we all matter, like all of us, from the spider to the bird, like we all matter and we all have a right to be here. And we are all we all could have an abundance, and there doesn't need to be any more taking. There doesn't need to be any more of just the domination and that greed, and just really working together and respecting each other just for this shared experience of being on this beautiful, beautiful earth.
That's one of the weird things about mushrooms, right? Is I've talked to a few people that have done them, and they all say that they feel like they're a better person after doing it.
Sometimes I'll cry and call my mom, be like, "Mom, I love you. Thanks for everything." There's times like that, and then there's times where I'll take mushrooms and kind of sit back, and they allow you to kind of see the world, in a different way. We're trained now. We're trained to have that 9 to 5 work your ass off, for somebody else most likely, and when you get off work, you only have enough time to, let's say, do whatever your addiction is. Most accepted is alcohol, so it'll be like, get off work, drink your beer, go to bed, do it again. And mushrooms kind of help you sit back and be like, they help you appreciate the little things that you usually kind of just go over on a daily basis because we're so fast-paced, and I think society is really creating this fast-paced kind of consumerism America, or our world in a sense, where we don't have time to sit back and think about the little things. And taking psychoactive or psychedelic substances really allows you to kind of sit back and realize what's really important.
And it's crazy when you begin to look into the history of these drugs and realize that they've kind of been an instrumental part of human culture for a very long
Thousands of
time. I mean,
years.
the Greeks were they were mixing like psychedelics in their wine, and Greek philosophers were doing that. And that was just an accepted part of their culture. That's what you did.
Yeah, cacao and mushrooms have a huge history of just being used together. Same thing. The cacao potentiates the effects of the mushrooms. So they were doing this healing techniques and using it as a medicine for thousands of years. And why aren't we allowed to?
Are you guys getting a lot of pushback trying to bring this? I mean, Arcata's pretty open, but are you finding a lot of people trying to push back on what you're trying to do out there?
Not really. I mean, while tabling, not one person has come up to me and told me that they disagree. There's been many people who have come up to me and wanting to know what it's all about, or having a little bit of like, oh, what exactly does this mean? But once I explain it, they're like, oh, okay, yeah. The most pushback I got was from Chief Brian Ahern, which is understandable because he is
Is he the police chief?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say.
So, I mean, that's what they're taught. You know, these are drugs. Drugs are bad. These are criminals. So, I mean, he's been in this, doing this work for a long time. So, I mean, that brainwashing and that, those things that you're taught, yeah, it sticks with you. So, and plus, I think a lot of it has to do with the ego of like, oh, if now I've been taught this and believed this for like 50 years, what if I was wrong? What does that say about me? I have to grasp onto this of, oh, drugs are bad. Yeah, criminals. I can't support this because if I realized that I was being lied to all these years and I believed something that was wrong all these years, like I'm losing a piece of myself.
And that's a hard thing to come to grips with.
Absolutely.
I mean, stripping away that part of your identity, especially I would imagine as a cop where that's part of the job description is stopping people from using substances.
Yeah. Yeah, and being taught that these people are bad people.
That's the biggest thing,
Yeah.
right? That's the biggest thing, is there's that branding on the people that only dirtbags use drugs, or, only people with no ambition, or they're not going anywhere in lives. Those are the people you're going to see using substances.
Yeah.
But I mean, look at how many people drink themselves to death every year.
Go home
or
and
smoke a pack of cigarettes and have lung cancer.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to draw the comparison that, okay, we accept that tobacco is fine. We're just going to let people make that decision, and if they want to hurt themselves with that, we let them. But then you get to mushrooms and it's like, no, we gotta stop people from doing that.
And I think a lot of that has to do with the government knew what they were doing. Nixon knew what he was doing, like back in the 60s. He knew that these were not dangerous substances, but they were dangerous to the system. I mean, America has been built on domination, racism. I mean, really, if you look at our history and what was happening in the 60s with the civil rights and with people who were against the war in Vietnam, these entheogens, these psychedelics, were helping people open their minds and being like, no, we need equal rights. We are all equal. We need to stop killing people. We need to stop war. This is not the answer. And that was against the system. They needed to stop that. So what was the easiest way to do to stop that? Criminalize these substances, which puts a criminal label on the people that were involved, and also an excuse to disrupt the civil rights movement, to disrupt the anti-war movement. And it's a great way of control, and that's what our government has been about, is controlling, dividing. I pray that we're able to take the whole system down and rebuild it with love, with peace, with equality,
Amen.
with respect.
Well, you know what's crazy? Have you ever heard about Operation Midnight Climax?
Mm-mm.
It was a CIA operation in the 60s and 70s, and this is all public information now, where they were dosing people with LSD to figure out what would happen. They would go into these brothels and just slip it into people's drinks and observe and see what happened.
Interesting.
That's pretty scary.
Crazy. It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
But that's
very wrong.
Oh yeah, it's definitely you wouldn't want that happening to you,
Yeah.
because then you would think you're going crazy.
Yeah.
You are right. Like, what it is so, like, there's a lot of good that came out of that whole counterculture, like that, like not to mention just great music, but just that whole fuck the system.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse my French, but
No, you can say whatever you want. We're on a podcast, man. There's no bars here.
But yeah, it's fuck the system kind of, where it's like, we're going to do our own thing. We're not going to go to war because you tell us to. We're going to take this substance and have fun and enjoy life. And I think we're kind of going through this kind of like same renaissance kind of, or I'm hoping that we are, of more music, more art, more dedication to those hobbies or lifestyles in a sense, and just back to more of like a base of love versus
That's where it's at.
the
Love's
rat race,
answer.
the rat race in the concrete jungle.
Well, I definitely think it's interesting this push now for people to start decriminalizing these drugs. I think it's interesting seeing this play out, especially with Oregon and how that worked, and now with you guys doing this here. I think it's important. I think it's really important.
It shows that, it shouldn't be federally illegal. This is going to help. And once these substances do become not Schedule 1, then we'll be able to actually do research. It blew my mind being a chemist at HSU. We were never allowed to use cannabis on campus because it's federally illegal. Like we have all the biomass we need here to do any kind of study that we want on cannabis, but no, you're not allowed to because it's federally illegal. So once that is like taking off, then Humboldt State can start having, actual studies and figure out dosages or like, different products that can actually help people for marijuana or other substances that are Schedule 1. And it's kind of caused that kind of like brick wall kind of where you just crash into that. You can't get FDA approval. You can't get funding for it. And
then it never progresses.
And
we find ourselves in the same spot 50 years from now. Like, that's the saddest thing. I mean, we all accept that people are adults. Like, when you're an adult, you get to make decisions for yourself. And we strip that away with drug use.
Yep.
But we don't do that. We allow anybody, if you're 18, to get a driver's license as long as you pass this test. There are people who should not be driving. I'm sure we've all seen them.
Yep.
But they get to drive. If you're 18, you can buy a gun, which I think is good. I think everybody should have guns. I think guns are you're right.
Yeah.
But I also think that, use of whatever substance you want, as long as you're not hurting other people, that's when it becomes a problem.
I
like
agree.
If you're
That's
on
a big
bath
one.
salts and hurting someone, then it's like, okay, we gotta stop that.
Yeah, I actually don't know much about bath salts, but I met someone one time who had taken them, and he said that as long as it's pure, you don't go insane. So that would be another good thing for.
That's a scary thought, though. As long
I
as
don't
it's
know.
pure.
It's something I would.
The purer,
I don't
the
want to
better.
mess around
right?
with it. Like the stories I've heard, and I would not want to mess around with it. But that's like another thing with decriminalization and potential legalization in the future is people do get clean things, clean substances that they're putting into their bodies, and yeah.
They've made it harder and harder to make it pure,
That's the crazy thing, right? Is everything's cut with like fentanyl.
Me and my
now.
friends, like, we've tested some of the cocaine that was going around just for shits and giggles. I do not fuck with that substance, but we tested it and it was mostly meth. So now it was like every time I see my friends or anybody around me doing it, I'm like, that's probably a meth batch. And like, of course they don't care, but like, it's just kind of crazy how people will put anything up their nose, and if it's called cocaine, they'll do it and just believe and hope that it's not fentanyl, like you're saying.
But you just don't know.
You don't know.
For the average person who is not a chemist or who doesn't have testing equipment, you get something off the street and you're just hoping that you're going to do it and you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't realize until, starting to talk with people about this is that, a lot of the ODs and a lot of these deaths aren't from the drug necessarily. It's from these, rat poison that it's cut with.
It's
or
the
fentanyl.
synergistic effect between different drugs.
And they're just people are just cutting it just to make more of a profit. Like these,
you only need 0.1 of fentanyl to overdose,
which is
like
insane.
a grain of salt.
Yeah.
or
and that's all it takes. And if we legalized it, regardless of how you feel about drug use, this is my opinion. Regardless of how you feel, if it was legal, it could be regulated, and people wouldn't have to die unnecessarily.
Yeah.
We can address, the aspect of people hurting people or of it ruining lives. We can address that, and we could figure that out as well. But
and that label of, and this is a thing amongst many humans, if someone ODs, they deserved it.
Yeah,
Stupid
it's so
drug
wrong.
addict, that's what they deserved. And that needs to change. Like, because, I mean, again, a lot of people, like, on harmful substances, they're in pain. And what they deserve is help. Like, therapy. Just someone to help them through the pain of their childhood or whatever happened to them in their lives to get them where they are. Then other people who just want to party, they're doing coke. They deserve to die? Like, really? Like, and just taking that label off and just like relearning how to think about these substances and not demonizing people, because we have a right to explore our own consciousness in whichever way we choose to. I mean, back with psychedelics, which helps us explore our consciousness, helps us learn more about ourselves. So many humans are out there that have no idea who they are. They might think they know who they are, but they don't really, because they're not taking the time to actually really discover themselves. And these entheogens, you sit there and you see yourself, you discover who you are. And I don't know, maybe some of the beliefs you have or those things that are not kind, being able to really look at that and heal that and see the root from that. Like back when I didn't really like children, being able to heal that to where it's like, yeah, I love children, just their innocence and just how they find like a little string on the floor and it's like the most fascinating thing. Like they're just awesome. But yeah.
That's what I find really fascinating about psychedelics in particular, is that idea of diving deeper into yourself and experiencing this I had a degree in cognitive neuroscience, or yeah, and it's, I mean, the mind is incredible, and I think anything that can help you further explore your own mentality, I guess, is something that this should be treated as a tool. I mean, nobody's getting blackout drunk on alcohol and being like, oh, I looked at my childhood and was thinking, oh man, I really need to fix this thing with my parents because it really affected me and I never had a chance to explore it, but now that I'm wasted, like I can look at it. But you hear that with psychedelics, which is weird.
And I feel like that is why one thing alcohol is like such a like, oh yeah, alcohol is a accepted thing and just even like encouraged to engage in. And I think part of that is because of the bigger system of alcohol is going to keep you down. Alcohol is never going to show you those things you need to see about yourself. It actually numbs those parts of yourself that it helps you continue in an unconscious life. So, and I mean, not saying, yes, treating alcohol with respect and having a good relationship with alcohol, but many people do not have a good relationship with alcohol. There are so many alcoholics, so many sad people, and this alcohol is not making anything better. They get up in the morning, go through their day, probably drinking when they can, go home, drink, pass out. And I mean, that's their life. And they're avoiding. Like this, it's not going to help them get to a better place. It's not going to help heal our communities, heal our earth. And I think that is part of the bigger agenda of why, things like psychedelics are illegal, things like alcohol and tobacco, which is proven to be deadly, is legal and even encouraged.
I gotta preface this. Cognitive science is my major, not cognitive neuroscience. I took a cognitive neuroscience class. I was like, why does that not sound? I don't even know my degrees. That's welcome to my life.
Good thing no one will ask
I
you
know,
for it, right?
Right? Yeah, I just had to throw that out there because I was like, why does that not sound right? But yeah, I mean, I have grown in my view of drug use for sure. As a kid, you have it ingrained that, oh, don't do drugs.
Yeah.
Say no to drugs. But I'll tell you what, as I've gotten older, I've met more people who have severely hurt their lives, their loved ones through alcohol use than any other drug. I don't know if you guys know Lazara Firefox Allen. She works with Hatcher, the Humboldt Area Center for Harm Reduction. They're big on not drug prevention, but like getting people the correct tools so that they can do it in like a healthy and safe manner. And she made some fascinating points about how, she knows people who use heroin and it doesn't affect their lives. They're productive members of society. And that really challenged my beliefs on how I view drugs, because I just assumed, heroin, you're ruining your life. But I didn't have anything to back that up. I've never really talked to someone who uses heroin, whether they're addicted or not, And I think that like that could be extended to psychedelics as well. If people look at
Absolutely.
it, if people want to see it that way and say, okay, what do I really know about psychedelic usage versus what have I been told? Because I bet if people really took a second, you're gonna have some family members and some friends that have used substances that you just don't know about. And
Absolutely.
it's just a part, especially here in America, it's just a part of life.
Mostly prescriptions. You don't really know
I
when
wasn't
people
even
are
thinking
popping a
about that when
pill.
I said that, but yeah, absolutely. I mean, how many people are on ADHD medication, which is just speed?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was huge at the college.
Oh yeah, Adderall.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I knew kids who were doing Adderall. They're taking Xanax. They've got Coke in the back bedroom. Like, what?
I'm like, how you acing every
I
test?
know that's the crazy thing, right? And they're like, oh, I got a little
I
something in the
got a little
back.
something, something.
So when you guys, so do you use these psychedelics? I know you said you use it more spiritually,
Hmm.
as like these awakening moments. Do you use it more recreationally?
I in a sense I do, especially with like music. So
Okay.
like, me and my bands will dose up and, jam. And that's amazing. When you take mushrooms or psychoactive compounds, it rewires your brain, and I feel like it helps with music for sure, or anything kind of artistic. Just kind of like, I don't know, for me, I can get behind the drum set, eat like a half a gram of mushrooms, and just kind of like close my eyes, and I'm just flowing. And I'm just moving around the drum set, and it's super fun. I'm kind of just out of my own realm into another realm, kind of just with the other group being on the same wavelength in a sense. Like, it's just amazing to me. And so I'll definitely use mushrooms and stuff, and maybe acid sometimes for that kind of recreational side. But I also do implement the microdosing a lot more now. And I feel like the microdosing has definitely helped me stay in tune with myself and nature as well. And like I said, it kind of just allows my day to flow better. I feel like I could process emotions better, or faster. So I mean, yeah, like I think the microdose is going to be a huge.
It's kind of all the rage now. It seems like a lot of people are adopting the
Well, it's really cool
microdosing
because,
attitude.
like you said, like you yourself haven't tried much of these substances, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like it's a good way to kind of like get you
Dip your
into
feet
it,
in.
dip your feet in, and honestly, you'll probably take let's say one microdose cap, and then you'll be like, I want to take two next time, or I want to take three or something, because that's usually how it starts. Is you're kind of like scared or intimidated by this substance,
And you're like easing
and then
in.
you ease in, then you kind of like be like, whoa, like that just rewired my brain in a positive way. Like, I want more.
And so, what are the effects of microdosing? Like, what do you? Because I'm guessing you're not experiencing any like visual
No, very
aspects.
low. You're supposed
Okay.
to almost not feel it.
Okay.
It's the theory behind it is you still get the neurological activity in your brain, with a very low dose. So you're not going to have visuals or kind of, have a body high or even feel high in general. It's mainly just supposed to kind of it be lingering in the background in a sense. That's the goal, is to not really feel any type of, psychoactive compounds in your system, but still get that benefit from it.
And so, what are you experiencing when you're doing like 3.5 grams of mushrooms? What is the effects of that? I know you said spiritual, but like to what extent?
I mean, like everything's moving around. Like, let's say you're staring at just a white wall. That whole wall is going to be moving. You might be seeing faces in it, like different, like just images of different, I don't know, like an angel or a dog or, whatever.
Different perceptions.
Yeah.
And then lights will be probably more intense.
How does that stack up against like a strong edible?
Pretty close.
Pretty close.
Like
That's what I've heard.
if
Is
you
like
ate
if
like 300 milligrams or more, like it does kind of put you in kind of like a psychedelic
that's what a
daze.
lot of people say is if you dose high enough with cannabis, you're almost touching the edge of a psychedelic.
But yeah, it's like it is kind of different though, in a sense of like, I've been in cannabis for like 10 years, and I've made a lot of products in that industry, and there's a difference when people are like, you grew really good weed, or you made a really good edible, it got me really high, I ate a whole box of, I don't know, cookies or something, and a whole pie of pizza, versus having a psychedelic experience and someone be like, hey, I've ate your mushrooms, or I've tried mushrooms from somebody you got it from, and it changed my life, or I had a brighter day the next day, or, I was glowing for a week. That feels so much better than like, having like the cannabis side of like, I got so high, man.
I ate a whole pizza.
Yeah, I ate a whole pizza.
So it's like again, it goes back to that. It's almost more introspective.
Yeah.
And life changing. Whereas, I guess I think of cannabis and I think of just more like strictly recreation.
Yeah, I mean, cannabis definitely has its medicinal properties, but
Oh yeah,
but
it helps a ton of people.
I abuse it. I abuse cannabis. I'll say that. I think it's because I've been smoking it, I guess, daily since I was in high school, so it just kept going, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it definitely does have medicinal properties, and I will use it for, if let's say I'm sick or something, I will take some edibles and try and just help me sleep. And now there's the whole realm of CBG and CBD, which are both great compounds as well.
I don't even know what CBG is. I don't think I've heard of that.
CBG is the precursor to all cannabinoids.
Oh, really?
And it's being more studied right now, and it's kind of being treated like CBD.
Yeah, I think CBD is fantastic. I have this CBD hand cream I use all the time because I'm always beating up my hands, and
Yeah.
I mean that stuff is incredible.
I agree.
I mean CBD is an amazing product.
Yeah, I'm curious if there's any products out there with like a mix of cannabinoids and psilocybin. I'm pretty sure I've heard something, but
Really?
be a pretty interesting mix.
Yeah, the only thing I mean microdosing with psilocybin is kind of the only thing I've really heard about.
Yeah, I wanted to speak more on the microdosing, just the beneficial effects, because I thought microdosing was kind of a load of crap.
A lot. That's the camp, right?
honestly,
Some people are
yeah.
like, "Oh my god, it's amazing," and
I-
others are like,
Yeah,
"You're
because
not."
I
doing
was all about the
anything."
macrodosing. I'm like, yeah, you need to get to that place of like the mystical experience because that's where the healing is. And it wasn't until I started my study for my thesis, and a lot of people were mentioning microdosing and the benefits of it. And I was like, all right, well, I'll give it a try. I'm gonna try some microdosing. So, yeah, I've been microdosing since January, and it has helped so much. I used to have severe anxiety, and that was something I've been working on for years, like getting to the root of this fear. Like I would be, on a walk with my dog, and all of a sudden, like how anxiety works, it's like, oh my gosh, something really bad's gonna happen. I have to go home right now. Something bad's gonna happen. Like something's gonna get us. Something's gonna hurt us. And it was just this very irrational fear that would just come randomly, like whether it be walking my dog or standing in line for groceries. And once I started microdosing, the first month, because how I did it was 4 days on, 3 days off, 4 days on, 3 days off. And the first month, I was like, I am feeling no effects. So I stopped. And then after about a couple weeks of stopping, I was on a walk with my dog and it happened. And it was like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling this fear. Like, oh my gosh, I have not felt this in like over a month. The microdosing was helping. So I went back on it and I haven't had any anxiety. It's been so freeing and wonderful. And I take breaks just to see like how long before the anxiety I feel it again. Because eventually, like what it does is it repatterns your brain. So eventually you're not going to need it anymore. But
Really?
yes. So, and science has been showing this, which is so magical.
That's
it's like-
crazy.
yeah, it's so cool. It's so cool.
Is that
Yeah.
with mushrooms or what?
With mushrooms, yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I had not heard that.
Yeah, it repatterns your brain like for anxiety, depression. So like, what an anti-anxiety or antidepressant, which I've stayed off those my whole life because I'm not
Those scare
for-
the shit
I'm
out of
not
me.
Yeah.
for pharmaceuticals, no. But I mean, like what they do is like, for the time you're taking it, like it repatterns your, or like, I don't know, actually the science behind it, but like makes neurons connect or something. But once you're not taking it, that's not happening anymore. But with the psilocybin, it actually permanently repatterns your brain to where you're not going to have a depressed brain anymore. You're not going to have a brain that's like prone to anxiety anymore. I don't know how long. I mean, for me, again, it's been since January, so I don't know how long it's going to take for my brain to repattern. But yeah.
But still, I mean, even if it just helps with your anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
that's
And-
because there's no negative. I mean, what are the bad side effects? You're not going to get. I mean, pick any of the long list of pharmaceutical side effects where your leg's gonna
And-
fall
yeah,
off.
and I've
I
seen
mean,
other like benefits too. Like I've been more focused. I've had more energy. Like I don't drink coffee anymore because I don't need it anymore. And I was addicted to caffeine for so long. But it's like I feel more energized. I feel more focused. I'm more motivated to do stuff, which is great. Like motivation, we could all use more motivation, or most
Yeah.
of us at least. And yeah, there's been people in my life who I have gotten to start it because I knew it would help them. And they've had like such great, like, two people are on antidepressants, and it's helping them get off the antidepressants. It's helping them be more motivated and just like really connect with nature. And yeah, it's been really cool because this is all like pretty new, like to me personally, and just recently with the people in my life the last couple months that I've gotten on the microdoses, and just seeing those positive effects is like, oh, this is so cool, because I thought it was like a load of crap, like it's really working.
That is I have not heard that. You think that
So
that
cool.
would be a little more mainstream, that people would be talking about that?
This is also new. There hasn't actually, well, since I graduated, I can't say for the last few months because I haven't been looking into the research, but there hasn't actually been a proper study yet done on microdosing. There's been quite a lot of studies out there with self microdosing and then filling out like
Of course.
questionnaires.
Okay. Yeah.
So maybe in the last few months there has been something published with a proper study, but it's all very new. But it's gonna be very well known and booming here shortly, I believe.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, if it does have all these properties that people, anecdotally tout, like that's powerful. That could be, I mean, that could be life-changing for so many people. And how
Oh,
many
yeah.
people are staying away from it just because of the branding of, oh no, it's a schedule, it's class 1, I can't,
Mhm.
Yeah.
I just can't touch
And the
it.
cool thing too, like with people in my life, since I have been studying it like in college and like what I'm doing now, more people are actually looking at it as like a medicine. Whereas before it's like, oh, Danielle, like her spiritual hoo-ha thing, like whatever she's doing, like hippie, It's like, oh, Danielle, she knows what she's talking about. These are actually medicines. Oh, I might want to try this. I'm like, cool. But it's been like really cool seeing how the stigma is just dissolving. And it really is about education and really the science too that is taking this very seriously.
Well, that's why I'm glad you guys are both very outspoken about it. Like, you're not ashamed of saying, "Oh, okay, I've tried this, I've done this. This is my experience with it." I think that's important. I think when they start sharing their stories, that's when you move the pendulum, because people can put a face towards, psilocybin or ayahuasca, and it's not, "Oh, I'm going to go be homeless and live in the gutter and never
Yeah.
achieve anything in my life." Which is what we need. We need
Absolutely.
we need to break that stigma.
And that's the whole thing with decriminalized nature, is like getting people talking and like really getting the information out there and sharing stories. And really story sharing is going to be a huge part of destigmatizing this. Like I could imagine, I also think I'm pro gun. I have several. And I used to shoot at the shooting range. And I could just imagine the guys I used to shoot with seeing me in what I'm doing right now, like in this movement. Like, Danielle, really? She does these substances? She seemed like she wouldn't be that type of person, because I'm there like in my jeans and with my guns and, doing that thing. But it's like, I think that's important, like what I'm doing and just being out there and just showing the people in my life who would have never thought. But then it's like, but she's such a cool person. Oh, maybe people who take these aren't crazy people like how I thought they were, or bad people like I thought they were. So
That's the root. That's what we need to address.
mhm.
Is that connection of, oh, it's one-sided. You do this, this is where you're going to be in life. But
Mhm.
that's not, I mean, that's rarely ever the case with
Well, it's
anything.
like, look at how we base our theory of success. You're successful if you're rich and you make money. It's like, that's a problem right there. So the people who are rich and successful, they're probably not the ones that are, technically taking psychoactive substances. And it's like, that shouldn't be how it should be thought about. You could still be successful and not live the normal life that you're supposed to live. Doesn't, success is engaged on just money and what job, or like, I don't know, what you do. And I think that's a big thing, is people just kind of gauge success in the wrong manner. I think people can be successful and be taking psychoactive substances daily. Like you said, you met people that are successful at life, and, or not met them, but you heard about people who take heroin And that's their, addiction or their dose, and they're still successful human beings.
And if you could do that, why not? Like if you enjoy using whatever substance you want to use, whether it's alcohol
To
or
each their
heroin,
own.
yeah, why should you not be able to do that and pursue your definition of what happiness is?
Yeah.
Like, why does it have to be placed into this box? And I think that's because I know a lot of people in my life, they're like, drugs, they still follow that line of drugs are bad. And then they'll go kill a 6-pack on the weekend or go do whatever. And I'm always struggling with trying to figure out how to help them create that kind of line of, you drinking this 6-pack really isn't that different from somebody else smoking a joint.
I think just having more conversations like this.
Yeah, it's important.
Really? I mean, just like the more conversations that are like this, the more people who are going to wake up and be like, oh, yeah, actually, why does that matter? It doesn't. And like my personal thought about why so many people are so concerned with what other people are doing, what they're putting in their bodies and labeling them, I think it's just the larger thing of what's going on of people wanting to avoid themselves. So if you're looking at someone else and judging them and judging what they're doing with their lives, what they're putting in their bodies, that's really distracting you from looking at yourself and being like, hey, there's these things that I need to be working on, or where is this unhappiness coming from, or oh, my marriage is falling apart. So instead of like looking at these big things happening in your life, oh, look at that person doing heroin, that's a bad person. Oh yeah, they died, good. Just like that judgment. And it really has to do, like, I don't know, what I said earlier is like healing yourself. And that's going to like really heal the world. And just like breaking out of those just cycles of being so concerned about what other people are doing. Unless they're hurting someone else, it really is none of your business.
It shouldn't matter.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, what you do on your own time in your house should be up to you as an adult.
Well,
like, that's the
especially
crazy thing.
These substances are gonna make people better people.
Exactly.
Like, this is what helps you become your best self.
Exactly.
So, I mean, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even with cannabis, I mean, I know here in California it's legal, but why is it not federally legal still? We've got, I don't know how many states, a ton, where it's legal in those states, but we're still just pretending that, oh, this is a bad plan.
Well, and I like cannabis too, in a sense, because, the stigma, it has that huge stigma. Oh, you're a stoner. I really loved that going to college and being like, yeah, I smoke a lot of weed. I study chemistry too. Like, who cares? And so it definitely had that stigma, and it's starting to, now that cannabis is more accepted, especially here in California, more people are willing to try it. Like, I know my mom, it took me so long to get my mom to try any of my cannabis products. And I would just be like, same thing, Mom, just microdose. Come on, just try it. Now she's all about it. Now she's like now she asks me for cannabis products all the time. Like, hey, I have arthritis in my wrist. Like, is there any cream you can make me or buy from your friends up there? And I'm like, I got you, Mom. So now she's like willing to take tinctures to go to bed instead of her sleeping pills. So I think with this too, it's like, I think that's going to happen too. And now I'm like, Mom, try these microdose capsules.
That's awesome.
And she's like willing to try now. But like before, she would never even think about doing any kind of marijuana or psychoactive plants or fungi. And like, I think the stigma is definitely being demolished, and it's helping, all this talk like we're doing now is helping her even be like, oh, okay, if everyone's doing it, why don't I try it? Instead of being like, oh, mijo, I don't want to do anything.
I know people that still won't even try CBD because they're like, no, that's marijuana.
That's
and I'm
drugs.
like, it's not. Like, you're gonna be, there's no THC in it. You're gonna be fine. And they're like, no, it's marijuana. I can't. That's illegal. And I'm like, well, even in California, it's legal. But I mean,
Yeah.
just try. They won't even give it a chance. I'm like, it could just try some CBD.
It might alleviate some of your
It
pain.
might help, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. But you're no worse off than where you are now.
Yeah.
That's the important thing. I think people just try it.
That was
Just
the
see
hard
how
thing
it-
for me is I'm
Yeah.
like, Mom, you're addicted to a sleeping pill, yet you won't
How many
try
people are
any of
addicted to
this-
melatonin that are just popping that all the time?
Yet you won't try like a natural plant remedy that might actually put you to sleep better, like without the side effects of waking up all groggy and pissed off.
It's crazy. And I bet it would be so funny to see your gun friends talk about it. Because guns and drugs are like the polar opposite.
They're like, we lost
spectrums.
Danielle.
Yeah.
And
I
she's
mean,
gone.
I think that's great though, because if any two need to be kind of relaxed, it's those two. Because you can be a responsible gun owner
Absolutely.
and smoke a joint.
Absolutely. It's been so interesting because I've been in many, many, many plant medicine circles. And every time I brought it up, I'll always like bring up like, hey, I have guns. But they're shocked. They're like, you have guns? Why would you have guns? And it's like, guns aren't a bad thing. They can be used for terrible things, yes. But so can knives, cars. Like, it just depends on the person behind that. But yeah, like bridging that and like balancing that, like, being a responsible gun owner. Like, I like to shoot targets. It's fun. It's a lot of fun shooting targets. I would never shoot an animal, but that's just me. And I'm also, don't eat animals. So,
but that's awesome. I mean, just like how we need to normalize guns in a weird way, because some people get so uptight about, you bring up guns and like, nobody should have guns, and we're like, what? Nobody?
Yeah.
Really? That's the stance we're gonna take?
I think we need to heal, because those that are using guns to harm others, like, they need to heal.
Yeah.
That's
what's going on. If they didn't have the gun, they would find something else. That's the thing they don't want to acknowledge. Like building a bomb. Which people have done.
Yes.
I mean, it would not be a stretch for that to be the new.
It's not hard.
Yeah. But nobody wants to address that. They see guns, just as how they see drugs and think of, oh, bad people. They see guns and think of, oh, bad people. Only bad people want guns. Only bad people do drugs. But that's just that's an answer that lacks so much nuance that it's kind of laughable when you hear it. And you're like, what are we doing, guys?
Yeah.
We're going to just paint people into these boxes.
Just like stoking the division. And that's like more than anything right now. We need to heal that division. And even some like movements that are like coming up is still feeding that energy of dividing people and judging people and, separating people. And even the thing with, COVID, what's going on with the vaccine. Families are getting separated. Like, oh, you're not going to vaccinate? Well, then you can't come over to my house anymore. Like, there's just so much division on so many different levels that are happening right now. And it's like, we really need to heal that in order to get out from where we are right now. Because
I don't think we've been this divided, easily in my lifetime. But I can't think of another time when we've been so at each other's throats on every issue.
And we're lucky to live where we live, because
Yeah, because it's pretty mellow up here. I mean, you get into the vaccine and people start getting a little on edge, or you bring up Trump and people are like, okay, where are we going with that? But if you go
big city, Portland.
Oh God, Portland. No thanks. I would not want to be there right now. People are losing it, and it's because there's that lack of compassion. There's that lack of nuance. Nobody wants to look at the other person and try to understand where they're coming from.
Which entheogens help with that. They allow you to have more compassion and understanding for others. And entheogens are the answer.
The ego death.
That's the big thing. That's what I keep coming back to it. That's what I think is fascinating, is I think a lot of people, we get into these problems because people have an ego. And people are like, oh, well, I gotta puff up my chest and you're wrong and I'm right because I know better than you, and all this stuff that ties back into the ego. And if there was a way, which I think psychedelics might be that answer to getting rid of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
That would benefit everybody. Like there's no downside to just trying to become a better person.
Absolutely. Besides, I keep coming back to this with the larger system of domination and control. That's a downside for like those who want that power, that energy, because if we get to a place of like, hey, we're equal, let's just love each other because love is the answer, it's always been the answer, then a lot of control is lost, that division is lost. That's why we need to do it, really rebuild this system, tear it down and rebuild it with love. Like, that's what we need. But those in power, some of those in power don't want that, because they're just hungry for that power and just for that domination. And yeah.
I don't know if we need to tear it down, but we definitely need to get 99% of the politicians in office out of office and put some people that actually want to help in there.
Yeah.
Because, at every turn, they're screwing over the little guy.
Yeah.
And we keep voting him back into office.
Yeah.
And
then getting upset that it's still happening. And it's like, well.
Yeah.
I feel guilty, too, because like I said, I kind of just like hide out in Humboldt and, stay out all this politics. And like...
It's a much better life doing that, I'll be honest. When you disconnect from the news and disconnect from all all those problems, you feel a lot better.
But like I said, it is like a guilt side of me too, where I'm like, damn, like I am educated. I can actually maybe help or do something.
Well, you are right now.
Yeah, I think that's
Decriminalize
why.
nature.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think
yeah.
that's why. I mean, I was saying it. I don't know if we were on air yet, but that's why when I heard you guys' message, I was like, oh, I gotta reach out and try to get somebody on to talk about this because I think it's powerful and I think it could be something really good. I'm excited to see where you guys go with it. I hope it starts in Arcata and I hope it spreads. I'm surprised. I'm really surprised it's already not throughout California.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough too because it's hard to know with Gavin Newsom going through a recall. Like, how is he going to, when it does get to him? Assuming, I think there's only one more hoop they need to jump through before it gets to him. But it's like, how is he going to vote on that? Because it's like he's not wanting to piss off the Republicans anymore. So is he just going to say no? Because he doesn't. I mean, they're never going to like him. So what's the point in saying no?
But I feel like if he says no, he's going to lose his base because a
Oh,
lot of the liberals are not going to be happy.
that's true.
How'd the Arcata City Council react?
Um, well, it was a split. Like Sarah Schaefer, she's the one who was leading it.
Shout out to Sarah. I had her
Yes.
on the podcast.
Oh,
She's
cool.
amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Shout out, Sarah.
Yeah, no, Sarah's great. And then Emily Goldstein, she was also we didn't get a chance to meet with her before, so it was a pleasant surprise of how passionate she was also about supporting this. And Stacy Atkins Salazar, we met with her and she was on the fence, but something happened and she was just very against it. She was mainly focusing on, well, what if there's a bad trip and the people who've had bad experiences with these entheogens aren't being represented here? And it's like, that was a big thing that nobody showed up that was against it. And it was publicized. It wasn't kept secret. So I think that is a big message right there. Because usually if someone's pissed off or like,
They're going to make it known.
they're going to show up more than people who are supportive of something. So, and another one was just like, hey, it's going to take too much staff time, but we're covering the education, so we're not asking for any assistance to help with educating the community. Like, we got this. And I wish that I was allowed to speak, because she was coming up with all these concerns after I sat down after people gave their personal testimonies, and I wasn't allowed to get back up and be like, hey, actually, yeah, we got the education part like covered. But yeah, so that was upsetting for me that these kind of conversations weren't happening when I was talking to her one-on-one, and I wasn't even given the opportunity to kind of rebuttal or provide answers just for these questions. Yeah, and a part of the bad trips too is education. That's what we're doing. We're educating people. What is the importance of set and setting, the importance of dosage, of intention. And it just seemed as though Stacy had already had her mind made up, and no matter how many testimonies there were, because to say no after those testimonies was like, those testimonies were powerful. She already had her mind made up. Even if 100 people showed up to give testimony, she would have still said no. And Brett Watson, he was in a tough situation. With there only being 4 council members, and it did all kind of lie on him because he was the last one to make the decision. I know he wasn't ready to vote on it, because that's what he said up there. Someone, Sarah, was like, yeah, let's vote on this. He's like, wait, I'm not ready, but she already said it, so you can't take it back after you say it. But what he did, I think, was the right thing. He wanted the community to be more involved, so I went to the safety committee, which it passed. And I think that was important, so it wasn't all of a sudden like, oh, this group came in and the city council decided to decriminalize this. What's happening? So with it allowing more time for community involvement, more media, I think was an important thing for the community to get more comfortable with this and knowledgeable about what was going on. But I believe that Brett is supportive. My phone's ringing.
No worries. And we were just talking about Brett, right? That's the mayor.
Poor guy.
It just got hit with a DUI.
Yeah.
Which I hadn't heard about that anywhere. Nobody was talking about that.
Yeah, I feel for him.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
I mean, drinking and driving is not okay, but
Yeah. I mean,
come on, guy,
obviously
you're the mayor.
he's obviously going through stuff, And
Oh,
like the
really?
whole spirit of decriminalized nature is healing. It's based on healing and not judging others. And really, part of decriminalizing these entheogens is so more people feel safe to access these entheogens. And so it is destigmatized. And, you know, whatever people are going through, like, we don't want to judge them or, you know, demonize them.
Maybe he
we
needs to get some mushrooms.
yes.
Maybe that would help
Yeah.
him.
Yeah. I think so.
That would be crazy. That would be a great. That
I'd
would be a
hope so,
great
I
push
mean.
for you guys. That would be amazing. If he did some mushrooms, had a great experience, and came back to the city council, and was like, "This is, we
Right.
need to make some changes because this is powerful."
Yeah, if he's, I'm just curious if he's even,
Gonna stay.
yeah, like he might lose his job.
Over the DUI,
I mean, I don't know how that works, but
I would. It wouldn't surprise me.
yeah,
Yeah, we
I
definitely hope that he's fine, and
yeah, like I disagree with him losing his job because yes, he represents the community, but like what I said, like at the city council was the Arcata community and Humboldt and Whole does have issues with addiction. I mean, alcoholism is a big one, and he is representing the community. I mean, this is a
The
true
mayor, yeah.
representation. Yes, I mean, like yes, and another reason why we need to decriminalize these to help people who do have these problems, like with alcohol and such.
So if it's decriminalized, it just means that you're not going to get arrested for it.
Yes.
But can they confiscate it if they find it on you or anything like that?
No, it's not a crime to have
Okay.
it. Yeah. Yeah. Selling it is not gonna be legal, and that's something I think a lot of people get confused on with decriminalization. That is part of the legalization model.
So you could still get arrested if you're selling the substance. Okay.
Yes. But you can gift it, you know, trade it.
That's
called-
crazy. You can gift it, but you can't sell it?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That seems like they're just trying to stick it to
Yeah, right.
Stick it to it still. Oh, you can trade it. What if you just trade it for money? I'm gonna trade this.
Donation
Yeah,
based.
thanks. I have a little tip jar out front.
Yeah, there might be things like that around
Yeah,
it.
that
But
seems
I
like
would
a
say
weird-
not risking it. You know, I don't want people to be getting
No,
into
absolutely.
trouble.
This was
like,
me just
yeah.
going off on a tangent here.
Yeah, no, I agree though. But
That seems a little ridiculous.
yeah.
Like, why not just...
I mean, people are going to need sources like for their medicine. But one thing that we're going to be doing as well, like with the education, is teaching people how to grow their own medicines. Cause
Oh, that's cool.
yeah,
Is it hard to grow mushrooms?
It's not too hard.
Okay.
You can find all the info that you need online to
Oh,
grow,
I bet,
to
yeah.
grow and make, you know, most of these psychoactive compounds. Like if you wanted to process San Pedro, which is a cacti, you could probably find a whole procedure. They call it SOP, Standard Operation and Procedure, and you could probably find everything you need online to do, you know, to make whatever you want. So same thing with growing mushrooms is that it's out there. It's starting to become
More mainstream.
More mainstream for sure, especially where we live. It's gonna be a wave, you know, and which is beautiful because not only psychoactive fungi, there's all the other fungi in the world that, you know, if you could cultivate your own medicine and food, that's like best of both worlds right there.
Yeah, why not? I mean, we said, chaga, lion's mane, mushroom fungi in general is just a crazy.
And those are
crazy.
technically easier to grow than the psychoactive ones. You
Oh,
know?
are they really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And they're legal, so you could set up a lion's mane. You know, we could set up a lion's mane grow right here.
That would be so funny. Just in the back of the studio,
Yeah.
come get some lion's mane. Oh man,
People need it.
They do. That's the thing. Is people want these substances.
Mm-hmm.
And if they want them and they're careful, and like you guys providing the knowledge and the know-how of, okay, this is the setting that you want, this is how you want to do it, you want to be careful with these aspects, like that is really crucial, because then people aren't going to have these bad trips, and that bad branding is going to start to dissipate.
Yeah, and to know, you know, most people don't know. Like for yourself, if you had an eighth in your hand, you would be like,
Yeah,
how
I would be
much
like, okay,
eat?
do I just eat this whole, what am I doing? I would probably just eat the whole thing.
Yeah.
Be like, all right, well, I guess we wait. I mean, you don't know. And if you don't know anybody that uses these substances and can guide you, you're kind of screwed. You're just going to figure it out one way or the other, and it might not end so well.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing with the decriminalization. Like in Arcata, there's so many knowledgeable people. Like there's so many people that could guide people, and but they are, keeping that knowledge quiet, or it's just only word of mouth because they are scared. Unlike what the chief was saying, that people aren't scared of arrest. No, there is fear of arrest. So people aren't out in the open being like, oh yeah, I have this knowledge, or I can, teach you this way of like, doing it in a good way or in a therapeutic way. But like with decriminalization, that kind of conversation is gonna be able to be opened up, and people aren't gonna be scared anymore, and just like being free to share that information and even offering their guidance. Because a lot of people, like just with tabling, a lot of people are like, I want to try mushrooms, but I don't know what the heck I'm doing, And so with the decriminalization, it's like, oh yeah, no, like there's opportunity to help people learn how to, do this in a safe way.
That's great.
Yeah, and mushrooms are going to be like I said, kind of the easiest, most accessible, but it would be nice to, have shamans or people that are experienced to either, there's probably some who live here, or, bring them in.
They definitely, some live here.
And,
oh, really?
And be able to have someone like that there for the other compounds as well, like mescaline or DMT.
And it's crazy. You hear a lot of, rich and famous people talk about how they go down to South America to go on these spiritual retreats, and they do ayahuasca. And that's accepted. But then if you were to do that up here, it's, oh no, that's frowned upon.
It's ridiculous that people have to actually leave the country in order to get the healing that they need. It shouldn't be that way.
Well, it's like that with stem cell medicine too. There are these fantastic breakthroughs with stem cells I think it's down in Panama, or maybe Colombia, somewhere down in South America. And we just can't do that here because we have all this religious undertone of, stem cells are babies, and we can't do that. But they're using like umbilical cords, and we just don't get access to this. I mean, they're doing incredible things with like joint repair. I mean, I'm going to pull things out of my ass because I can't think of it off the top of my head, but like things that we are struggling with up here and still trying to figure out active ways of fixing, and they've got it down there, and it's incredible, and we can't do that.
Yeah.
It's almost like we are so far behind our scientific abilities.
It's almost like we're trying to fight this with one hand tied behind our back.
Yeah.
And we're doing that intentionally to ourselves. And it's like, well, why would, if these things have benefits, whether it's stem cells or psychedelics or pick your case, if it benefits people, why not? I mean, it's really as simple as that. Like, why?
Yeah.
It
why
could
not?
also be because the pharmaceuticals want to keep people sick
That's
because
the
they
big
want
thing.
to make money off of the sick.
That's the big thing.
Like all the side effects of these so-called medicines, and then they have like, oh, I have medicine for that side effect. It's like, these are not medicines; they are poison, and they want to keep you alive and sick so they can make as much money as they possibly can off of you. They don't want like, oh, psilocybin microdosing, it helps with anxiety. People won't be anxious and depressed anymore. No, we can't have that. I mean, I think it all comes down to, again, power, money, control, domination. Like, kind of just profiting off of suffering.
Well, the pharmaceutical industry it's so big.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much money wrapped up in that. I mean, they fought cannabis for 40, 50 years. I mean, it's when you get into a business that's that profitable, it would not surprise me the extent that they would go to shut things down.
Oh yeah.
Like this.
Insane extents to shut things down.
And
especially if you could just grow it yourself.
And it gets back to where, we're too busy. They keep us busy, they keep us distracted to where we don't want to question this. And we almost feel empowered that we can't do anything about it. Well, it's, we can't do anything about it. Might as well just live our lives.
A lot of people are there. Like, my father, who's 72, he was like a hippie in the 60s and just like, against the war and, had so much hope just with these psychedelics that, this is going to heal the world. And then everything that happened, up until this point, he's at a place of like, he's disempowered. He's like, it's never going to change. And that's sad, when people are beaten down by this system. And more people are waking up, which is a beautiful thing to witness. And the more of us that are like, no, like this needs to be decriminalized. No, this is medicine and it is going to help. They won't be able to prevent it anymore. I mean, we are very powerful. And that is why we need to heal these divisions and be able to relate to each other even though we don't agree on everything, still like being able to just like heal those divisions and have like good conversations and really fighting for what is right, standing up for what is right and standing up for our freedom and yeah, for our healing.
We just need to be nicer to each other and have compassion. And it sounds like there is potential to find that compassion in these psychedelics.
Yep.
And that is something I'm really looking forward to. I hope I hope it comes to fruition and that it becomes what it can be, because I think it would help people. And that's like
Yeah.
that's all I would want, is if people are suffering and we could get them some relief and just make their life a little bit better. I think that's what we should all want.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
All right.
it's one small step into just little daily things that you can do to just keep
I
trying.
mean, you guys are out here doing the heavy lifting. I'm just happy you took the time to come out and talk to me so that maybe some more people can find you guys and
Absolutely.
and we
Thank
can
you
move
for
the needle.
inviting us
Yeah,
and
thanks for
having
having
these
us.
conversations.
It was my pleasure. It was my pleasure, really. All right. Thanks, guys.
All right,
Yeah, thank you.
you.
Take care of yourself, everyone.